Back in the turbulent days of the late 60s, one Bay Area location came to symbolize the tension of the time. Even today, to many, the name People's Park still brings back images of clashes between police and anti-establishment protesters. 11 years ago, KTVU's Rob Roth traced the history of this controversial piece of real estate.
In April of 1969, with the anti-Vietnam War movement in full throttle, hundreds of UC Berkeley students and residents responded to an ad in the underground newspaper, the Berkeley Barb. The ad urged people to build a park out of what had been a 2.8-acre muddy, rutted, university-owned eyesore of a parking lot.
So every individuals that wanted to do something, there was enough space that they could go ahead and go about doing it.
But the university said it planned to use the space for a sports field, ordered the people in the park out, and put up no trespassing sign. Charles Plummer is now the Alameda County Sheriff, but in 1969 he was captain of the Berkeley Police Department. He said this Garden of Eden had become a magnet for drugs and crime.
So finally the city and the university decided it's time to do something about it.
That something was to build a 10-foot-high chain-link fence around the park. If the park had become a can of gasoline, this was the match.
There were highway patrol officers all around the park, and people were putting a fence up.
Dan Siegel is an attorney and president of the Oakland School Board, but back in 1969, he was UC Berkeley's student body president. At his speech at Sproul Hall that day, he urged the 4,000 people there to take back the park.
People then started to drift down Telegraph Avenue towards People's Park. They ran into the police barricades set up at Telegraph and Haste. Some people threw some rocks or bottles. The police started throwing tear gas, and then the riot was on.
These officers were afraid. They were really being hurt.
The conflict over a patch of dirt became a war. Then Governor Ronald Reagan sent in 2,000 National Guard troops. And as they rode through downtown Berkeley, even little children flashed the peace sign. The heavy-handed response seemed to only inflame the very situation authorities were trying to quell. There was so much tear gas in the air, no matter where you were in Berkeley or what you were doing, it found you.
I was trying to give a midterm examination yesterday, and the gas drifted in, I suppose, from this gas delivered by helicopter.
Actually, the law enforcement officers were attacked by the mob, literally overrun, a number of them isolated by squads of mobsters who tromped on them, stomped them.
Before long, Berkeley resembled a country under siege. People at the time thought so too.
This is Claude Mann reporting for Channel 2 News from the occupied portion of Berkeley.
But while the tear gas may have seemed harsh enough, it was nothing compared to the shotguns the sheriff's deputies and police were using. One man watching from a nearby rooftop, James Rector, was shot and killed. Another man was blinded. Sheriff Plummer says that deputies had the wrong ammunition in their shotguns.
They were supposedly loaded with birdshot, and obviously somebody had buckshot. And this James Rector was throwing rebar and concrete down at the officers, and they shot him and killed him. And of course that didn't help the law enforcement side out much.
We thought the cops were totally outrageous, definitely deserved being called pigs.
By the end of May of that year, the dispute began to cool. Marches became peaceful, and by early June, the National Guard troops withdrew. In the end, 169 people were injured, including dozens of law enforcement officers. More than 1,000 arrested.
I was very much involved in the anti-war movement at that time, and my main objective in life was trying to bring an end to the war in Vietnam. And People's Park at the time seemed a little bit of a sideshow to me. But here I was, right in the middle of this event, accused of inciting to riot.
Siegel stood trial on that charge and was acquitted.
You can't allow a free zone where anybody can do just what they want. This is the United States of America. And you have to enforce the law, and the police were charged with doing that.
Years later, there would be more confrontations, such as when the university wanted to build volleyball courts here.
I'm not too sure about if students today are really, or Berkeley students today are really interested in those kind of issues. And they're more interested in getting jobs and everything after graduation.
But last month, students voted to keep People's Park a park, not build a dorm here as some have advocated. After all, for better or for worse, this is one place where the spirit of the 60s still breathes.